Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he hates dreams, so you can only imagine what he thinks about multiverses. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
I'm the secret BG.
And he's home with COVID, so he couldn't go out to the theater. You're welcome, by the way, and thus he can't be here today. We're sorry, Bruce Leslie. I don't have that little sad trombone or anything else.
That's his. That's what he does.
He's got one of those on there. I took that off of my board because I'm a gentleman.
Oh, you're a podcasting gentleman.
I'm a podcasting gentleman. I'm not going to go so far as to say scholar because I don't want to put myself in any kind of dire straight should there be a test.
And I mean, come on, let's be fair.
Yes.
Well, the reading thing.
Oh, fair enough. Well, we have put the brakes on anime just a little bit here because we have headed back into the theater to watch Doctor Strange.
There would be a
Multiverse.
Literal riot if we did not do the new Doctor Strange movie. I mean, if we just kept going with anime.
Here's some anime crap that you don't want us to review that we're probably not going to like nearly as much as the rest of you will like it. Therefore, you will hate us. No, we have something today that everybody has gone out and seen. And for those of you, and we always have these when new releases and stuff come out, a new slew of members, which, by the way, Sean, let me tell you something. This show, last month, even though all the shows that we put out last month considered, we had the highest download months that we'd ever had for HMP, low these 8 years. So big, giant thank you to all of you guys. Like, the fact that our numbers continually kind of go up every single month is thanks to you guys and sharing the show out to friends and stuff like that. And I just want to say thank you guys because we see the numbers. You're out there and we appreciate you.
I can't imagine it. You and I are so completely unlikable. It's got to be a Bruce thing.
Yeah, it's mostly like I stay for the Bruce. I tolerate those other two jerks.
The guy with the nasally New England twang and the guy who's so full of himself.
Between the two of them, no thank you. But that's why we have Bruce on the show. That's why we do this. We kick him out for a couple of shows just so you guys can realize how good you actually have it with Bruce.
Oh my God, Are you saying that you gave him COVID on purpose?
Today's show, we're talking about Doctor Strange. But before we get into all of this, we do want to say, like I said, a big thank you to everyone who supports this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Doesn't matter what level you support at, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, you all get to do that. And, of course, vote on a movie that we watch each and every month. And, of course, anime is going to be no exception to that rule and stuff as well. So we'll have those for you pretty soon and everything. And, of course, you also get yourself a great HMP nickname. So while you like this show, why don't you just do us a favor? You don't have to listen through 45 minutes worth of ads for crap that you're never going to buy for things that you don't want, nor do you even actually need. You can just support us directly. Don't have to go through all of that rigmarole. Just, send us whatever you think this show is worth that you like keeping on the air every single week. For guess what, Sean? Guess what? It's a darn shame that Bruce isn't here today because the first week of May is the official start of HMP.
Yes, I did know that.
So we are going, this is right into our 8th year with this episode.
I know it. I know.
Started off with Amazing Spider-Man 2, and here we are today. So
I feel like I've learned nothing.
No, we've pretty much gone around in circles for the most part for the past 8 years. And still no Sylvester Stallone after all of, so far, I'm hoping before year 10 we can get Sylvester Stallone to at least, acknowledge that this show exists in some way, shape, or form.
We shall see.
That would be my my goal for the next 2 years, that before the 10-year anniversary of this podcast, he doesn't have to listen to them all. I'm not saying we lock him in a room and make him listen to all of Sean's bits, but I would like him to realize that the funny thing is out there and he just goes, oh, that's cute or whatever, that's all.
Well, I will say this week at work, I got again. Somebody leaked something to somebody.
Oh boy.
Because this week a whole bunch of people at work.
Son of a gun.
Oh, hey, sweet Shawnsy. Hey, sweet Shawnsy.
Well, there's worse problems, I suppose, in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
You could be like Bruce and have COVID, and not only did he get COVID, the poor guy, West Virginia gets a deluge of rain, and the guy's got flooding and stuff everywhere. Man,
unbelievable.
Literally, when it rains, it pours over at the Leslie home. My goodness, him and his daughter got COVID. The other 3 didn't get COVID, but it doesn't matter. They can't go out and do anything because it's flooded. It's like, my goodness. So send your love out to Bruce on the Twitters and everything. His Twitter link will be in the show notes as always and everything. Okay, like I said, patreon.com/HMP. Big thank you to all of you fine folks out there. Let's get into it. Here is the trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Every night, I dream the same dream. And then, the nightmare begins. I did what I had to do to protect our world.
You cannot control everything, Strange. You opened the doorway between universes, and we don't know who or what will walk through it.
Wanda, what do you know about the multiverse?
Viz had his theories. He believed it was dangerous.
He was right.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished.
We should tell him the truth.
Things just got out of hand.
You break the rules. Look out! To become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. It doesn't seem fair.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He's not here, but
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
okay. All right. The last time Bruce was gone, can I be honest with you, Sean?
Yeah.
I lied a little bit on the last one when Bruce wasn't here. I said that comic connection was 110% written by Bruce, and then I read something. And I'm here to tell you that he didn't write that. I wrote that.
I am shocked.
I feel like it was important for me to come out and let everybody know that it wasn't him. He shouldn't be blamed for how bad that comic book connection was. But this one he totally wrote.
Okay, good. Let's hear it.
Who's the Illuminati? The Illuminati, which is plural of the Latin illuminus, which means enlightened, given to several groups, both real and fictitious. Historically, the name refers to the Bavarian Illuminati, the Enlightenment-era secret society founded on the 1st of May, 1776 in Bavaria, today part of Germany. But we're not talking about that today. That's a whole bunch of crap. By the way, giant spoilers for this movie. We forgot to say that at the top of the show.
Yes, that was forgotten.
But even if you don't know what that is at this point, you're still in a little bit in the dark. You've probably heard it at this point, but have you seen the movie? If you haven't seen the movie, what the hell's wrong with you? Why have you gotten 10 minutes into a show and what's wrong with you? Anyways, the new Illuminati are a fictional secret society group of superheroes appearing in the Avengers comic books published by Marvel Comics. Now they've had a lot of different iterations over the years and whatnot, but to me, the people that really kind of encapsulate it all, we got Iron Man, Black Bolt, Doctor Strange, Mr. Fantastic, Namor the Submariner, and Professor X. That was like kind of the early 2000s.
That's the original. Yeah, that's the original Illuminati from 2007.
Yeah, so like that's, to me, that was kind of where I remember seeing it all, and I was still kind of reading books a little lightly even up until probably about 2010. And then I kind of stopped and everything. But anyways, that's the Illuminati that we're talking about this week. They've been in comics for quite some time and everything. And we'll talk more about them later. Bruce 100% wrote this, signed Bruce Leslie. I don't know why he'd put that at the end. It seems rather odd that one would include all of that. But let me tell you
I'm
something.
Mr. Birds. What's your first name, sir? I don't know.
Well, if that immaculate comic book connection wasn't enough for you, let me sell everybody on this blast of a good time, because this sucker's got everything. We've got good wigs. We've got bad wigs. We've got men's wigs, women's wigs, red wigs, black wigs, blonde wigs, facial hair. Is this a fashion movie? Of course it is. We've got sexy witch makeup, classic Raimi zombie era makeup. We've got the sentient magical cape. We've got a star-studded jean jacket complete with a pin that will surely be edited out of countries where Disney would still like to make money over their supposed convictions. We've also got a giant eyeball, and Bruce Leslie isn't here, so I don't understand how that could even possibly be. We've got tentacles galore, so you know some sicko's going to love this movie. We've got a blast through realities like Blade Runner reality, animated reality, paint reality. The Darkhold is back. We've got the Illuminati. We keep proving that what people have said for years and years is that kids love Wong. We've got Bruce Campbell making hot pizza balls, puking, bee stinging, spell casting, shield wielding, dimension jumping, dead conjuring. This movie's got everything.
I agree. It does. This is the last chance here, everybody. This is spoilers. If you haven't seen it, you should probably shut us off. Go see the movie. So what did you think?
Well, I mean, coming off of WandaVision, which was what was clearly kind of leading into this, we all kind of knew Wanda would have some sort of involvement in this show. I didn't know that she would, I didn't figure she would be like the main character and we'd really kind of be going specifically against her. I thought it would be kind of she's kind of gotten over all of the Vision stuff, and like she's practicing stuff like her magic in the woods or whatever, so she's getting good at it. So whenever Doctor Strange needs her for some multiverse thing, she'll be able to come in and do her voodoo magic, and we'll all be cool in the gang. Not the case. I was kind of surprised about it, but overall, what I was really happy about was that the Raimi kind of shined through.
Oh my Lord, man! This is the most Raimi movie I've seen in forever. What's the last Raimi movie that was this Raimi-y?
Drag Me to Hell.
Oh, yes, Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell was the last Raimi movie that was as Raimi as this is.
I agreed. But I mean, you have the iris in, you have the iris outs, you have the characters looking at the camera, like buzzing the camera. I mean, it's so very, very Raimi-ish.
The first-person camera view on some sort of tentacle or tentacle-esque sort of thing going towards something or moving very fast up. The stuff that you saw all the way back from like Evil Dead to Raising Arizona, that just super fast, weird camera that you're like, that's a Raimi thing, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, just having stuff like Bruce Campbell beat himself up.
Yeah.
I mean, get out of here. Playing Pizza Papa. Let me get out of here. It's amazing. The best end credit stinger I think I've seen in any Marvel movie ever.
Yeah, I think so. Like, and again, we'll be jumping all over the place here, but yeah, I think that as far as just hey, it's over. It's pretty great. Just
it's
over.
Over.
Everybody else and just
buzzing the lens. Bruce Campbell buzzing the lens. It's over. Just amazing.
But it was also great. It's just like, when's that going to stop? I don't know, about 2-3 weeks from now.
So I here are the positives that I have, and it's my review is going to be far more positive than you probably think, because as anyone who has listened to this show before knows, I am not the biggest Doctor Strange fan, and I'm specifically not a very big Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange fan because his accent is so bad. However, his accent has gotten better. From movie to movie to movie, it's still not perfect, but it is definitely not what it once was. The moment of Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Like that. Like you don't have those moments anymore. It's just like every so often something comes up where you're like, just saw it there. But he is far better in this role. I think that it was a very good move to not make it as funny as they probably wanted to make it. specifically Sam Raimi. I mean, he loves his slapstick comedy in a movie. There isn't a whole lot of that in this. I mean, there is some, but not that
not
much.
a single pie to the face for Doctor Strange. It's very bizarre.
I know, it's surprising.
I'm like, this isn't nearly hit the wacky quotient that I was looking for, quite frankly.
At no point does anyone do the curling nook nook nook. Nobody.
Spinning around in a circle on the floor.
What is happening? So
it's like no one cares about cinema.
I love Raimi so much. I don't know if I talked about that very often on this show, but I really do love Sam Raimi. And, not all of his movies, but most of his movies, they're just treasures to me. I love them so much. But he is, I cannot believe that Marvel didn't try to stamp him down. They were like, no, you be as Raimi as you want to be, buddy. And he is, and it's
which
great.
is interesting because so the first movie, directed by Scott Derrickson, written by C. Robert Cargill, they were in for Multiverse of Madness, and I'd actually talked to him years before all of this kind of came out, and I was just they were on board for the second one and everything. I think they may have came up with that title or something. Maybe, who knows? But they had planned on stuff and got to a point where, for whatever reason, just created differences over at Marvel. They were let go, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, you're letting go of the original guys," which is also kind of funny because Cargill got dropped initially as the original writer for Strange, and then they brought in another guy, and then they realized, oh, all the stuff that we liked from this new draft was actually from the first guy, so we brought him back in to kind of redo everything.
But that's not out of the ordinary.
No,
either.
not
that
wildly
all the time.
Exactly, not wildly unfounded or anything. But and then when we hear, oh well, Derrickson, and because those guys came from horror, they did the what was the Sinister and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So with going over to the horror stuff of this version of Doctor Strange, everybody was really intrigued and whatnot. So when they got dropped, it was like, oh well, this is a little bit disconcerting. And then we hear Sam Raimi's coming back. Sam Raimi, who kind of save for maybe Bryan Singer in the X-Men movie, I kind of count those two as almost one in a strange way because they were kind of back-to-back hits that really launched us into the modern-day superhero film.
Well, Blade did.
Blade did, but but Blade didn't make nearly the money that
No,
X-Men
but
and Spider-Man.
But no, you're right. But it is the
I mean more from a cultural zeitgeist kind of standpoint, where everybody and their moms got to go see that movie. Spider-Man was 1,000% that movie, and Raimi was the guy behind it, who was kind of who knew. Who knew that was going to be, the guy to shepherd that in here? But he did a heck of a job, and he's back on display. And it feels like to me that he hasn't really lost any steps. If anything, he's kind of gotten better at the superhero game. It feels.
I agree. And the thing that I really like about having Raimi back at the helm is that it does harken back. You cannot help it. You start thinking about Spider-Man when you're watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, for me, that is a complete boon to this movie. It makes the movie better. I know that the third one is not anyone's favorite movie, but the other two are amazing. And I love that. I love that you get that feel watching this movie. There were several times where it was like, oh man, that feels so much like Spider-Man, especially when it came to when Doctor Strange turns into a CGI thing. Mm-hmm. And the CGI feels a little Spider-Man-y to me, where I'm like, that is not the way that Marvel usually does CGI. That's interesting, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, they just let him go and they let him be him. And it feels like both him and Taika Waititi are basically the only two directors now where they're like, do what you want.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I feel like it is something, I don't want to say a house style per se, but they're kind of, it feels like they're trying to steer their boat to a particular direction, a particular style and stuff like that, and they need to find the people that are just going to kind of jive with that as well as they do, or
Sure.
be able to hit that nerve like a Taika Waititi, because you could put anybody else, take exactly what he had with that and give that movie still to somebody else, and it's not going to be the same thing. Not even close. He's going to do something very, very different with that. And so, I think with Marvel right now, it's finding the voice of the director then that will be able to match with the vision that they have. And I think ever since, the Edgar Wright dropping off, Ant-Man and Peyton Reed taking over, when Peyton Reed got that, we were just like, he's got some big shoes to fill here. And darn if Ant-Man didn't deliver,
I love that first Ant-Man movie. It's still one of my favorite Marvel movies of that run.
And that was at that point where all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, it feels like Marvel has a really good, idea of where they're going. So when, our initial crew here was dropped and then we put in Raimi, you just can't help but feel like Feige kind of knows what he's doing at this point.
Well, not only that, but, they brought in, because Cargill's gone. So they bring in Michael Waldron, who is kind of like their in-house guy there. And he co-wrote Loki, and he's one of the original writers of Rick and Morty. So like,
this is the guy who's got in the weeds a lot. Yeah.
And when he's going to be able to write your multiverse for you, because he's that guy. Mm-hmm. Now here is the thing that I did not know until this weekend, because I was like, who wrote this? Because I thought that Raimi might have had a hand in it, but he did not. He didn't even touch that script. Michael Waldron, he and Kevin Feige have a secret Star Wars project that they're working on. Where Waldron's the writer, Feige's the producer. And I have, there is literally no information on it except that those two are involved with it. And I wonder if this is the first step towards something where Star Wars as a whole is basically like, we got some stuff we need to fix here. These are going to be our guys. Like, kind of like what DC did with Jeff Johns in the 90s, where they were like, we have screwed everything else. Please help us.
Come in and write this shit, because we clearly don't have a clue what's going on here. And we need somebody who could just make some sense of all this nonsense.
Will you save us from ourselves? So, you have two people over at Star Wars now working on something that has me very interested. Anyway, back to Doctor Strange, because that's what everybody's here for. So I think that when it came to the multiverse stuff, that like the balance of what this movie is exceptional, because they have a lot of heavy lifting to do in this movie. They have to tell a cohesive storyline, which they do. They have to get deeper into the multiverse, which they do. They have to then, on top of that, add in there's a bunch of new superheroes that you're going to see, and we got to start chipping away at that so that audiences aren't, like not knocked off their feet, but like enjoy seeing these people when they come up. And I can't speak about your experience with this because you saw it by yourself, right?
Yeah, I saw it by myself at 11:30 at night at my theater that I manage, so I can see it by myself when there's no one else there, which is the best thing in the world. And I'm also kind of glad, because we'll talk about it later, but certain moments where I did shout out loud.
There is a lady, and we might as well, I just got to talk about this because I'll forget if I don't say it right now, which is that there was a lady in the movie theater that when Krasinski comes out as Mr. Fantastic, as Reed Richards, she out loud yelled at the screen, "Oh my God!" and I was really surprised. I was surprised that he was on screen. Like I thought that it was going to be like a picture of him or something.
Yeah,
it was not. It was him in full color. And so when that all came down, I was immediately like just completely flabbergasted. And then they really punch it home with the Professor X coming out, to the point where I wasn't paying any attention to the other people in that room.
Okay.
And that's a mistake, because I do know who's in that room, but there's a lot to talk about in that room.
Right. Well, let's go ahead, just because we're here, and again we're jumping all over the place. But when that happened, first and foremost, I was just like, they show us Black Bolt right away in the Black Bolt costume. Yep. I was just like, whoa! No,
and it's not even the Black Bolt costume from the show. It's the Black Bolt. It's the comics appropriate.
It's the honest to God Black Bolt costume that looks exactly like he just walked out of a page of the Inhumans, and it's the same bloody actor. And it's like, was that show good? Maybe it was. No, it wasn't, because we saw it. It was not good. But oh my God, it gave me just such a thrill of joy. And then they're like, hold on to your seat, fool, because we about to smack you in the face 3 more times before this is over. And it's unreal.
It is very, very impressive what is happening at Marvel, where they're like, not only are we going to take this character that nobody cares about at all, and we are going to make you question your own taste and your own judgment by bringing him in. But we are also, what if he shows up somewhere else later? You're going to like it. I promise you will.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those things where you're just like, this is the reason why they have it over DC, is because if DC tries something like this, it's always clunky and feels forced and weird, and it ain't no good. Mm-hmm. But you know, seeing this room of superheroes, like, you know, the Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel is there,
which was kind of a neat idea of like, oh, this in this universe, it wasn't Carol, it was her, and so, you know, just slight different change of plans, and she's the one who ends up being Captain Marvel, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and it's the costume, like, if you're paying attention, it's the Kree costume,
the green one,
which means that is the version of her that has that suit, and versus, you know, somebody who, you know, just like a different version of her. So right. It's literally, she is literally the first Captain Marvel in that movie universe. Wow, my head just exploded. But that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
So you have all that jazz. You have Krasinski as Reed Richards.
Which, by the way, okay, so like, you feel like as this scene's going on, you feel it. You feel like anything could possibly happen at this point. Now, unfortunately, and again, I have to wag my finger a little bit at the Marvel editorial department when it comes to this. At this point, having seen the movie, I get it and I can understand, and I think that we can explain our way through it. However, you should not have had Patrick Stewart's voice in that trailer.
No, not at all.
That was a big giant ass mistake that you made doing that.
Yeah, completely botched that. And they're pretty good at that kind of thing. I mean, just look at the fact of, in the trailer, you don't even realize that Scarlet Witch is the bad guy. Like, that's pretty amazing. I mean, I was floored that they made her the main villain.
But to have that kind of, so when all of a sudden they mention, like, you think they're just going to mention Reed, and then you start seeing him, like, it felt like it was in slow motion. You're just like, is it going to be him? Is it going to be him? It releases and like out loud, I was like, woo! I couldn't believe it. I was just like, it's like they heard us just chammering from the, you know, depths, and they were like, we hear you and we're going to do it. But at the same time, with all of this in mind, oh, by the way, before I get down that alley, I do want to say one quick thing. I kind of am sad that Patrick Stewart's in this, and I'll tell you.
Oh, no, not at all, man, because what that does is that frees them up to use a new Professor X.
Yeah, but at the same time, too, it's just like, he looked really bad. He didn't look good. He didn't feel like he was, like, I felt like I was watching a really old Patrick Stewart being forced to do something he didn't want to do. And perhaps that's not the case. Perhaps he's very down, but like of any time that you could have used some CGI to de-age somebody, this was going to be the chance, my dude. And you could have done it better than they did in X-Men 3. We've had the technology now. We can do it. We can do it really, really well. But like, he looked so old and feeble, and he sounded feeble, and it made me kind of sad. I love to see the Jim Lee wheelchair.
It's because he's 90 years old, Adam.
I know, and screw him for aging. I hate it. Why doesn't he stop? Can't he just be an immortal being in my dreams and things I watch on television for forever and a day? That's not possible. All right.
So, you know, what I'm guessing, because of the system he was using to move around with, that feels an awful lot like cartoon X-Men Professor Xavier.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, listen, it was like his clothing and everything. It's straight out of there, and again, that's all from like Jim Lee's X-Men #1 and stuff like that. So to me, I love seeing that. I love the fact that like so I knew he was going to be in there because of the stupid ass trailer spoiled it for me. Because even if I close my eyes during the trailer and just listen to the audio, you still screw me with that, dude. No, not
true.
cool. So I knew he was coming in it, but like when he wheels up in the yellow wheelchair, I was like, bro, perfect. Like 90s Adam just cried a little tear of joy. It was so sweet. And then you see a very old Patrick Stewart, and I'm just like, damn, this feels like it kind of sucks.
Listen, as someone who has seen Patrick Stewart basically be forced against his will to do something, like any promotional stuff that he's been doing for Picard, just off camera, there's somebody pointing a gun at that man because he does not want to be speaking to people about the stupid Picard show. And so seeing him in this is a very different feel from seeing him doing something that he doesn't want to do. So that's the first part. Second part is I love the idea that they used him because it does add a bit of reverence and reference to this character so that by the time that they get around to doing the X-Men, they're going to be able to use their own version and they don't have to, basically get into the same predicament that the X-Men movies did. Because the X-Men movies kind of got their hands tied with who they had. And even when they got themselves out of it, they put themselves back in it. And it was like, what do you guys do when you were out?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do any of that.
We had the perfect guy for like 20 years before the movie even happened. And like, we all knew it. We all read Wizard. We all knew that was the guy that was going to do it. We finally like manifested it into actually existing. And then we held on for too long.
It's true. And by the way, folks, if you are under the age of 30, Wizard was a magazine that people used to read that had comic book news in it.
It was
and
great.
For those of you under 20, a magazine is like a periodical that people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Periodical's too big of a word for those kids.
Hey, listen, man, let me tell you something. The Gen Z generation is far, far smarter than our generation.
Yeah, but they don't know the word periodical, and I got that on them, so. Suck eggs, Gen Z. Okay. So, but with all of that, at the same time, too, again, we'll talk about this, and then we'll kind of get into some strange, because this is obviously the thing that everybody's talking about.
Yep.
I love the fact that we introduced these characters. I love the fact that it was the Illuminati. The new Baron. I like the fact that he's kind of a good guy and stuff like that. I thought that was a good twist.
But he's not at all.
But you know what I mean. But he presents himself as that. He's not exactly the same guy we knew. Let's put it that way.
It's true.
Let's put it that way.
Yes.
But with all of that happening in there and us getting all of this good information, and then they do, which is what I'm sure pissed a lot of people off, but actually made me happy more or less, was they kind of killed all these people off. Because they technically are people from other universes and stuff.
Yes,
that doesn't mean that
they
these
can have
people
it both ways. Yes,
can exist in another thing, so we can bring them back if we want to. But if you never see them again, it's no big deal, which is kind of really great. You finally got your John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. If we never have another one, at least you got this one, right? So,
no way, man. He's going to be. He's going to be Reed Richards. There's no way he isn't.
I think that you kind of have to and stuff. I just wish that maybe we got to see like a little bit more of him in action, but maybe you want to save that for a Fantastic Four proper and everything. But I thought the way of getting rid of him was really kind of cool.
And did you hear? Yeah, turning him into spaghetti. Yikes! Did you hear that line that Strange says to Reed Richards, where he's like, "I thought that you were in the '60s or something like that."
Yeah.
He name checks the 60s, which tells me that that's where Marvel is going. And, I mean, geez, when we first started this podcast, we were talking about that it should have been set in the 60s. And by we, I mean me.
Yeah, I think that one, I don't know that it necessarily would have, I think you could infer that in some way, but I think it was more just, it may have been like a little bit of a nod back into the, oh, that sounds stupid. When did you figure that out? The 60s? Because it does sound like a very 60s kind of thing. So you're like, I guess, maybe just a nod back to the origin itself and not necessarily the the time frame with which they're from.
Oh, really? You think that it's just a legacy name, not that he is from the 60s?
No, I felt that was more of a legacy kind of like wink
interesting.
of
that had not occurred to me.
Hey, doesn't this sound a little bit silly in 2022? And you're like, maybe it does a little.
Man, I just really want like super like 60s, like space age, like bachelor pad apartment looking thing. Like that's really what I want, you know.
But we do confirm that at least with this particular Reed Richards that we do have a wife and we do have kids. So
we do.
You know, that's at least an avenue to look down and stuff that goes like, okay, at least they're thinking about it. They mention stuff like that, so it's fun. But again, not also.
I can't wait to see how they're going to screw up the thing.
I'm telling you, I don't know how they can continue to do it like so just wrong. Honestly,
in different ways. That's the part that gets me the most.
Yeah, because if you look at all three representations, the Corman, the Tim,
the best one,
what
the
you
Corman.
know, Tim, what's his face? I keep thinking Tim Sale, but that's the Tim Story. That's it. Tim Sale's the Batman guy. And then the new one. There are elements in each of those that are fine that you could just amalgamate together to make the proper one, but you just haven't done it.
Nope.
You feel it would be a simple character to do, but I would really, to me, I think it all lies in the eyebrows. If you don't get the eyebrows right, what are you doing? You're kind of messing.
Agreed.
You got to have the eyebrows.
Agreed.
But so we get a little bit of that kind of stuff, a little bit of multiverse, but we don't necessarily hold on to it. And I think, and we'll talk about it a little bit with some of our Patreon people and their thoughts and stuff. But this also felt like it was, had at least the potential to be this Marvel MCU kind of, game changer and everything, bringing mutants into it, that kind of reverse House of M sort of thing that we've been talking about forever and a day.
I think that's what they're setting up here. Like we're not even close to being done with the multiverse. And so having all of this happen, like I would imagine that for the next 5 years, everything Marvel is going to be multiverse related, unless it's, like singular one-off stories like they've been doing in Moon Knight.
I don't even think that, like, I guess we keep forgetting, like, we still got the Loki threads hanging out there.
Yep.
And stuff
Ant-Man,
like that. Yeah.
Ant-Man is all multiverse stuff.
Oh yeah, quadrophenia.
Right. Yeah, quadrophenia, Ant-Man quadrophenia.
So that's, I think you're right. They're just going to be dwelling in that neighborhood a little bit more. And
well, it's where their big bad is, and they have to, and it's going to be the thing that realigns that universe. And it's a really good way to go about it. The problem is that after a certain point, it's going to be the same thing that happened with Thanos in the last story structure, which was that, by the fourth time Thanos makes an appearance, people are like, okay, enough already. Let's get to it.
We get it. Kang wants to conquer stuff. Who cares?
Right. And we haven't even gotten to the Kangness of it all, except for that one brief bit in Loki, and that's it. But it's coming, and once that starts, it's going to be locked into that, and we're going to be there for a while. So enjoy yourselves. And also for the people who are complaining that there wasn't enough multiverse characters, it's going to be fine. There's going to be a whole lot more multiverse people that we see.
But we got a Peggy Carter. We got like an animated thing coming to life in this world. So, what more are you complaining about, people?
I totally agree with everything that you've just said. However, one of the things, because everyone's like, well, I thought there was going to be a whole lot more multiverse here. Don't worry. There's going to be plenty of that for the next 5 years. Settle in. Whoever you have in your head as being this person or that superhero, it's coming. You don't have to worry about it.
Speaking of multiverses, how did you like the kind of transition from multiverse to multiverse? Because in the world that we live in right now, to be wowed by a CGI demonstration, if you will, is few and far between. Like sometimes it's like it looks cool and like really neat, and other times you just like, oh, it's just a big old CGI mess that I'm kind of looking at in here. What were your thoughts on just kind of going from one universe to the other?
My favorite part of that is when they're hopping multiples at the same time.
Just going boom, here's one, boom, here's one.
It's just so visually striking, and the ideas are the big one, because I literally thought to myself before the movie started, you know, you and I are very, very big fans of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah.
And if you can't outdo what they did with no budget, you are doing it incorrectly. And they did. I mean, they did outdo it.
Yeah. And you've also got 1,000 times the budget that
of
that
course,
movie did.
Of course. But, you know, that like, this is a spectacle movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once is not.
Yeah.
And so having spectacle in your spectacle, but that also means that you have to have enough ideas. And they did. There were actual, honest to God, enough different ideas that were interesting and visually stunning. You know, I know everybody saw the trailer of, you know, little pieces of him coming off like a Rubik's Cube. But the one that really got me is the paint universe.
Yeah, the paint. I think everybody has that same reaction. Is like that paint was like so cool, because it's also like a really strange and scary idea if you think about it. Like, I'm traveling through, and all of a sudden my entire form is now this liquid that is kind of like me but not me. I can feel myself. It's like that's a scary Cronenberg-esque kind of thought right there.
It is. And I'm glad that you're bringing this up, because this is something that I think needs to be brought up. How did Marvel get away with a PG-13 in this movie?
There's enough things where you can just go fantasy, I guess.
Well, the just based on the Black Bolt head crushing alone.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Talk about
Me too.
Very cool, where you just
was
go
awesome.
Matrix, but yet you twist it on another thing. And again, I like, for the most part, that, like, you know, we do get to one point which I think is cool, where we kind of like really get to see Black Bolt do something specific, which I thought was fun.
Yeah.
But having them then go Matrix, turn away the thing as he says something and collapses in on itself. Whoa, so cool.
Amazing. And you know, there's a lot of instances like that. Like, what is Scarlet Witch's death count in this movie? 30? You know, like, and they're not easy, like, off-screen Star Warsy deaths. Like, there are people just getting ripped in half in this movie.
Straight up. It's like, there is some violent stuff. But then at the same time too, the great thing that Sam Raimi has kind of always done is really balance that line of, like, yes, this can be gory. Yes, this can be scary. But, like, I mean, look at Evil Dead 2. You're having as much laughs as you are scares in Evil Dead 2. And this is kind of a lot of the same way. And then a lot of, like, I didn't look through all the makeup and stuff, but, like, it looks so much like that kind of, you know, proper old school K&B style makeup and everything they're doing for Doctor Strange, and just rolls right into it. And it's just, there's so much fun to be had with it. And, like, as much CGI as there is in it, it doesn't feel like one of those movies that, like, is constantly on blue screen. You know what I mean? Where it feels like we're just looking at that background that's CGI'd in there. It doesn't always feel like that, which is good.
I just thought of my favorite moment in this movie, because it's such a small little nice touch, and we got to get back to the Reed Richards stuff for me to bring this up, right. Which is that, so in the universe that they're in, you know, with Reed Richards and Professor Xavier in the Illuminati room there, before they're walking in, they're walking down the hallway, and there's the Ultron robots.
Yes, very cool.
Only they haven't turned evil.
They're kind of tiny,
because there is no Tony Stark to mess it up. They were clearly made by Reed Richards, who is the smartest man in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And he's even smarter than our own Tony, because Reed Richards didn't screw up and make Ultron try to take over the world.
Oh, I like that.
They work perfectly.
Yeah, if they did it correctly, i.e. if you were as smart as Mr. Fantastic, you'd have gotten it right.
It's such a small little detail to this movie that I could not believe that I caught it, because there's a lot of things that you have to think about for that to work. But two, that they did it. They were paying enough attention to say, we're trying to show you how smart this person is. In a world without Tony Stark, this guy is the guy who's the smartest person in the world. And he's actually even smarter than Tony because Ultron exists and is not trying to take over the world.
Yeah, that's what I always like, kind of like explaining to people that didn't know enough stuff about, like, specifically like Fantastic Four. It's like, as smart as you think Tony is, like, and he's good, don't get me wrong, but Reed Richards way smarter than that.
He is, but he's also, like can't pump gas in his own car.
Yeah.
Like an actual smart person would be.
Well, but again, I think that comes to, the smart writing that Marvel tends to do, which is just like, yeah, if you had this guy who's extremely smart, a lot, and we've all met those people, the ones that, are highly functioning in one area, but another area is just like they can't, put two and two together.
Right.
Some people are like that.
Right.
But this movie is a lot of fun. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is finally kind of like getting to the right point with this role to where he feels very comfortable in it, despite the fact that the wigs are still a little bit sus.
Yeah, they're still not great.
But I will say there was only one really bad wig for him, and that was in the wedding scene.
The wedding one that's is the really worst. Where I noticed that.
The other ones are fine, but that one is woo. That one's
it's almost like you can see the glue in the front of it. It's so bad.
Yeah, that one's a really bad one. Rachel McAdams' kind of red hair one. Yeah. That one's not good either. No. It's just like when you put a wig on a good looking lady and it uglies her up, that ain't no good.
No. I want to bring up my last point that's a positive for this movie, and then I'll go into trashing it.
Okay.
The character and the actress who's playing America Chavez.
Oh yes, we barely even talked about her.
I love this character. I love her power set. I love the way that she is presented. I love that it's not that weird thing that Marvel seems to do with the TV show where like, oh, look, and here's another superhero also see. Like that didn't happen this time. Mm-hmm. The way that they present her to you, you already believe like, oh, like I want to see more of this person. Like I would like to see her in something else. Whereas with something like Moon Knight, like I never want to see Red Scarab again ever, but she's going to show up somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it's the difference between doing your job correctly and incorrectly. And they did it so well in this. And that actress also is just so instantly likable. And maybe it's because, we see her trying to be murdered, first thing we see her, but she's instantly likable. And I love the way that she's portrayed. And I really love the fact of at one point she realizes that our universe is Doctor Strange can't speak Spanish and she makes fun of him. Like that is great.
Like, how do you not know this?
Yeah, that is great.
I thought she was really good. The only part that you've only got so much, time and space to do everything, but I felt like she was a little bit underdeveloped as far as the character goes. I like most of it. I feel like I needed to figure out who she was a little bit more other than this, dimension jumping being and stuff who you want to stay safe and everything, but I just don't know enough about her to have that like little extra bit of care,
Well, they did a little bit of jetpacking on this.
Yeah, maybe we'll get more later on, and then we'll have some form of connection and stuff like that. But like as of right now, I'm like, I get it, but I'm not 100% invested in this one yet.
But they're hiding the fact that they didn't have a lot of backstory with that character, in the fact of her having two moms. Yeah. And so they're like, she has two moms. Let's move on. And that is a great way to shortcut that and to jetpack that. And no one's going to ask follow-up questions to that because there's certain people who are going to be like, ew. There's also going to be people who are rolling their eyes and saying, you're trying to politicize this thing. Whatever. It is great jetpacking. And it feels like Marvel did this on purpose so that they'd be like, nobody is going to ask us a follow-up question that she has two moms. So let's move on.
It was smart to get the ball rolling for everything because when I watched this movie, I started the movie itself, so I didn't have to watch any of the trailers because I work in a movie theater. For those of you who don't know, so when I started the movie, like I didn't watch the kind of little Marvel fanfare at the top because I'm just trying to make sure all the buttons are right and everything is correct. And I look up and I'm like, what is this? A couple of minutes into this movie? What's going on here? I'm seeing like Doctor Strange looks different, and he's fighting with this girl. I'm just like, what did we skip 20 minutes into this film? Like, stop trying to spoil everything right off the bat, man. And I rewound it again, and I was like, oh no, okay, well that's the beginning then. All right, I guess I better hurry downstairs to
Damn you, Raimi, you got me again.
Before things get going, I was like, oh, there's the logo. I guess we're just starting like that. And I think that's the smart thing to do with that. And another reason why we don't necessarily have to, stick too long with the character itself is because we're using that as more of the story narrative to push that thing along as opposed to, the character itself, I suppose.
Right.
Well, before we get to our rating and everything, we have to ask ourselves one very important question: is how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Buongiorno, Mr. Stallone. This week's Stallone connection is a lady that worked in the visual effects department of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a lady named Diane Charlary. She was the environmental artist on the picture. And if you've ever needed someone who knew what they were doing as the environment artist, this would definitely be that movie. Now, she's been kicking around for a bit. Her first credited job was as an asset generalist for a movie called The Last Witch Hunter. Now, I've never heard of The Last Witch Hunter, and I've definitely never heard of an asset generalist, but I do have a general idea. Look out, everybody. Comedy coming through.
Oh.
She also did work on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where she was also an asset generalist. And wouldn't you know it, you were also in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, there's not much about Ms. Charlary in the internet, so if you'll allow me, I'd like to fabricate a backstory for Diane through a contrived and completely overdone movie premise. So here it is. Diane Charlary is a 30-something who isn't sure what she wants in life. She's floating from job to job and relationship to relationship. She's played by the Scarlet Witch herself, Elizabeth Olsen. Then one day, she sees a guy she's always been searching for at a coffee shop. He's good looking, he's nerdy, but not too nerdy, and appears to be successful. His name is Oscar, and he's played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. They get to talking, hit it off immediately, decide to go out on a date. There's just one problem. He doesn't live in Chicago. He's just visiting. He lives in Los Angeles. If she's ever there, she should look him up. He works as a visual effects guy for movies and TV, so he's always working and doesn't have much time to meet people. So Diane hatches a plan. She's going to get into the visual effects industry so she can finally be with the guy that she's always wanted to be with. As she dives into that world, moving to LA, she learns that she's pretty good at it. Really good, in fact. She rises through the ranks of the industry in a quick period of time. We see her having to deal with the nerdy nerds and the glass ceiling, but she's a crackerjack. She takes it all head on. And we really learn that she's not just the lovable loser we thought she was. Then she starts work on a new project where she finally achieves her goal, working with Oscar. But as it turns out, Oscar is a real jerk. Everybody hates Oscar. Everyone gets real close to making the obvious Oscar the Grouch joke, but no one ever actually gets there. And at the end of the movie, Diane murders Oscar and falls in love with someone who won't make her completely change her life. And they all live happily ever after. The end. And there you have it, Mr. Stallone. This week's movie is connected to you through the valiant work of Diane Charlary. I hope you're listening. If you are, please give us a 5-star review and follow us. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
One can only hope as we go into our 8th year that Sylvester Stallone will one day actually grace us with the just go like, hey, I heard a thing. It was funny. That's all we need. That's all we need.
That's all we need.
Over here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system, and let's see what our friends over at patreon.com/HMP had to say about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Joe writes in, Joe says, I thought the acting was great and some of the horror worked really well, but it's a Stephanie Brown for me. I found the writing around the female characters problematic at best and far too much Raimi for my taste. Strange does the same thing that as the villain, and he grows more powerful, whereas the villain must die. It's a bad look. And the first and third acts are a complete mess, and too many times this felt like a bad 90s movie. I think from now on, I'll be waiting for these to come to Disney+.
Oh, wow.
Rocket Face says, I've been suffering from Marvel fatigue lately, and I've checked out of the third act for the last few films. This one was the opposite for me. I started out apoplectic towards the movie, and by the end, the bits of Raiminess were allowed to shine through and won me over. Kevin says, the way you keep a movie franchise like this fresh is by diversifying the voices contained within, and Sam Raimi, and I'm going to screw this name up, Chiwetel Gomez, I guess that's the gal who's America Chavez, maybe?
No, Chiwetel Ejiofor.
No. Well, he spells it something. No, I know who Chiwetel Ejiofor. This is not that.
Oh,
Zachty Gomez.
Gomez.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
This does mean that the movie will only be quote-unquote good for a portion of the viewers, but it also means that there will be some absolute favorites. Like Black Panther and Eternals, this movie is Dick Grayson. Nate, King Solomon's Frog, says, I really enjoyed this movie. Not without its faults. I just found that every time that I noticed a plot hole or a quote-unquote hand-wavy, weak explanation, I stopped myself from questioning it so I could keep enjoying the ride. It was a lot of fun, Tim Drake for me. Chad says, Multiverse of Madness is everything I wanted. Love seeing Anson Mount back as Black Bolt, and Raimi reintroducing him, as well as bring the other Illuminati such to kill him off, is the drag me to hell mean-spiritedness I love, which I think I agree. It's like, hey, we got all these people, and we killed them. Shut up. Everyone is great, even Cumberbatch's accent. The magic fights are top-notch, and the Raimi horror elements touch beyond what I was expecting. Maybe the best third MCU act ever since Endgame? ? Tim Drake for me, but definitely could see it go up on a rewatch. That's from Chad. Bo writes, your enjoyment of this movie will almost entirely depend on how you feel about Wanda's character arc. I feel the performances were great overall, and the visuals were again stunning, but I had a very difficult time being okay with the heel turn by Wanda at the very beginning. I feel almost cruel to it feels almost cruel to the character that has suffered so much in the MCU, but has led to some very good storytelling afterwards. I rate this a Damian Wayne as a result. What do you think about that as far as like Wanda's character arc and everything? Did that seem like a turn to you? Because I guess at the end of WandaVision, her kind of looking into that stuff felt like she was still kind of going down that dark path for me.
Well, I think that, when it comes to her just wanting to, let me start over. I'm kind of just, so there's two things, right? One is that she never mentions Vision in any of this. It's always about the kids, and in no other universe is Vision there, which is weird.
Yeah, only mentions him once in passing, really.
Right. So that part is pretty strange. They also, they kind of. I love the dun 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 of it all, of her saying, "Well, I have to murder this girl so that I can see my kids." Like, I do like that moment. But it does betray the character. And so it kind of depends on whether you like Wanda or not, on how much you're going to enjoy this movie. As most people know who have been listening to us, I am not a fan of Scarlet Witch at all. So turning her into an evil character, I like that idea. And I think that it's kind of, and I do like that they didn't do the thing at the end of the movie where they were like, well, Scarlet Witch just took her over, so she's still fine, she's just fine. Like, they don't do that. In this case, they're kind of like, you did some really bad stuff here. Like, yeah,
there's no pat on the back and being like, well, it's all water under the bridge kind of thing. It's like, well, no, some stuff's still happening here.
Yeah.
Noah says, it's a Tim Drake for me. I love that going in, I thought it was going to be a team up with Wanda and Strange to save the universe, much like Spider-Man No Way Home. But the flip of Wanda to Scarlet Witch that matches the end season from WandaVision was excellent and well hidden in the trailers that I saw. I think America Chavez was a new was a new, and has some very good promise as a character. She does a great job. Benedict Wong also continues to be awesome. Definitely a Sam Raimi movie. It has his feeling all over it. The only downside for me was the acting of Wanda's kids. They did a better job on the series, but man, it was rough in this movie.
He is not wrong. They are bad.
Overall, I really liked it, and it will be a mid-range rating for the MCU, and it does have a rewatchable factor to it. Dave says, I'm still on a contact high from Moon Knight, so the film might not be as magical as it would otherwise be, so I'm tempted to rate it just as a Damien, even though with the godly competition, I think it sneaks under as a low Grayson. Robert says, definitely not going to ask who directed this entry. I liked America Chavez, Doctor Strange dynamic. Felt the Illuminati was put there for pure fan service and to reinforce that Scarlet Witch was a Thanos-level baddie. These next batch of Marvel movies are seeding for the younger audiences. America spins out of this film. I guess that's
Spins out of this film.
Spins out of this film. Structure comes out of Quadramania. Miss Marvel will come out of Marvel/Disney Plus series. We've already got a new Hawkeye and Black Widow. The next big event crossover will be something akin to the MCU version of 2015 Secret War story. This movie kept driving that multiverse incursion line, and the post-credit Clea singer sealed it. At the end of the day, this one left me meh. Jason Todd. Woo.
Wow.
And then Alex wraps it all up here and says, Grayson all the way. It was a good blend of Marvel style and Sam Raimi PG-13 horror elements. We didn't even talk about the post stinger here. Let's do that before we finally get to our thing here. But I did not know who this person was, other than the fact that the actress was obviously Charlize Theron as some mystical creature named Theo. Was that right?
Clea.
Theo, Clea. It's Miss Cleo. But I know.
Clea.
I'm saying it wrong on purpose.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. First of all, I will say I thought it was kind of cool her slicing through the world and kind of seeing the fragments of the world kind of flip over in like kind of a fabric-y sort of way as their way into whatever realm that they were kind of going in. I thought that was sort of neat. But
it is neat.
I don't know anything about the character, so I can't tell you. I think like most people, after these end credits, I head to the internet and go like, "What's this now?"
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not gonna sit up here on a high horse and tell you like, how can you not know who this person is?
Yeah.
She's Doctor Strange's wife, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I looked all that up.
Bruce Leslie could probably make us all look like fools, but he's not here
of course,
today.
but that's why he's here.
Yeah.
You know, like when it comes to rambling, free rambling, you and I can do that all day long.
Proper knowledge?
Proper knowledge, no sir.
A little hit,
so
little
you know
miss.
what I did find out also is that she is from the dark universe. She's the Sorceress Supreme in the dark universe, and that is the universe that Dormammu was in. Oh. And so we've seen her universe before in the Doctor Strange movies.
So overall, our Patreon supporters, they voted at the highest. Tim Drake is the number one spot here, with a Dick Grayson following closely there behind, Damian Wayne as well. So, but I think we only got one Jason Todd and two Joseph Gordon-Levitt's, which is an I didn't see it, Robin.
Oh,
so I started to include that one just in case.
That's a good one. That's a nice one. I like that one.
You know. So where does Doctor Strange and in the Multiverse of Madness fall in the Robin rating system for you, Sean?
If it weren't for Sam Raimi, this would be a Damian Wayne, but because it is Sam Raimi, it is a not Jason Todd. It is a.
So I'm gonna now kick it in the face, send it all the way down to the minor leagues.
It's a Tim Drake, and so I really, it's just so nice to see Sam Raimi being Sam Raimi in a movie. You know, he's just he is an off-screen character in all of his movies when he gets to be Sam Raimi. And this is one of those movies. So for me, it's a Tim Drake. Although I do have one very big issue with the plot. There's a very big plot hole, which is that in that one world, they handcuff Strange so he can't use his sorcery.
Right.
Why can't they make the same thing for the Scarlet Witch? To me, that is a gigantic plot hole.
No, I mean, shoot, maybe Bruce can answer that for us next week.
Well, what Bruce is going to say is basically that witchcraft isn't the same as sorcery, and to that I say pshaw.
Fair enough. For me, this is it's a Tim Drake as well. I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the Sam Raimi factor to it. A lot of fun. I do need to see it again. If I had not ended up having to work today, I probably would have went to see it again just to get one more in the brain here and everything. But I am looking forward to seeing it again. Maybe in 3D, because I feel like a 3D would actually look pretty good with this because of
Yeah, I would imagine.
So maybe we'll check that out, and I'll talk about that at some point, maybe. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a whole bunch. I feel like again, it's that strange feeling, no pun intended, like when I was waiting in that theater for Ant-Man or for another movie, and these kids were talking about how they were super stoked for Ant-Man 2, and people are talking about how they were stoked for a Doctor Strange sequel, and I have to kind of pinch myself sometimes and go like, what world are we living in right now?
It's so nuts, man.
What a wild and crazy thing that not only is there's going to be a Doctor Strange movie, it's going to be a Doctor Strange sequel, and it's going to be the #1 movie at the box office this weekend across the entire planet. And you're like, wow, what a strange, amazing time that we're living in. So that is it, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this episode. We'll get Bruce's thoughts on Doctor Strange and stuff next week and everything. But in the meantime, Sean, where can they find more of your work on the internet?
We have another podcast called Marvel 30 Questions, where each week we ask questions about the latest Marvel property on telly. And this week was the last episode of Moon Knight. And so we are going to be recording a Moon Knight 30 Questions podcast. Please check that out.
And right after that, we're going to be jumping into our Star Wars 30 question format show where we'll be talking about Obi-Wan. And if you're subscribed to the Mandalorian 30 questions, that's going to be on that same feed. So you don't have to do nothing. Stay on that bad boy, and we'll have more of that stuff coming your way very, very soon. So with that, it's on the Star Wars anniversary that they're dropping it, yeah?
I believe you are correct. I think you were the one who told me that.
Yeah, not too bad. And the only Star Wars day that actually counts, not that May the 4th bull crap that.
Man, you are up on that mountain and on that hill, and you will die on that hill.
I will, and I'll be honest with you. I am very glad I was very tempted to make some TikToks and stuff on that day and on the 5th. It's Revenge of the 5th. I just want to stab everybody. I hate it, but I refrained. Because I'm growing as a person.
Good job by not being a wang on the internet.
And just, every now and then. Well, that'll do it for this episode of Here Movie Podcast. So you know what that means. Next week, we're shifting that gear back, boy, and we're going back into anime. That's right. Sean, what's your choice for anime, and why are we watching it next week?
We are doing Mobile Suit Gundam from 1981. It's on Netflix. I have never seen anything with Gundam. And so I was like, hey, let's check this out because I am a basic bitch.
So we're going to basic it all over the place and do a little Gundam action. That'll do it, everybody. Join us next week for some more Gundam fun. For Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet and the absent Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.